In Spellcasters Chronicles, strategy and action go hand in hand, while in Rules of Engagement, your best strategy is to hold nobody's hand, or touch anything really. But let's discuss those games and much more in this week's gaming news. Another week, another extraction shooter. But this time, this is somewhat of a gray area. As Rules of Engagement, the Gray State is developed by Tencent's Gray State Studio. Okay, never mind. But color jokes aside, this one really had us glued to our seats, for different reasons. But let's start with the basics. Rules of Engagement is a free-to-play tactical RPG extraction shooter, set in what the devs call a horror-verse. And from all these buzzwords, the last one is probably most important, as the Horrorverse describes a multiverse where all your favorite nightmare fuels come together to plot a timely demise for you. In short, a combination of cosmic entities, movie monsters, creepypasta, and their own creations into a nightmarish hell. Splendid! Where's the exit? Players take on the role of Striders, elite operatives that are sent into this so-called Gray State to recover a priceless alien artifact. So, this isn't about saving the world, it's just business. Inside the Gray State, you are not just fighting against the countless horrors, but also the environment and other players. But let's face it, the horrors are probably way worse than Greg with his awful aim. That's probably also the reason it's labeled as a PvE VP and not PvP VE. Combat itself blends tactical shooting with survival mechanics, and according to the developer, the emphasis really lies on tactical, as a smart build and good synergy can outperform raw aim. Which brings us to the RPG elements of the game: massive skill trees, character builds, gun mods, and class synergies, just to name a few. Currently, they announced 3 classes with a 4th teased for the alpha. We got your typical defense build with the sledge, while the Pyro offers more offensive firepower. And if you like it more stealthy, there is also the Phantom, with more being added after release. Naturally, what interests us the most is the co-op. And let's just say multiplayer is the driver here, with groups for up to 4 players. But for once, you don't have to be 4 players. You can also go solo or team up as a duo or trio, whatever you prefer. So you can finally leave behind that one friend who always insists we can take them right before everyone dies. There will also be matchmaking for those of you who only have friends of this particular type, so don't worry. For everyone else, team play and synergy is key, with the developer pointing out that tactics and creativity outperforms raw gunplay skills. And with so many microtransaction hells out there, we obviously got suspicious. But according to a written statement, the game will always be fair to play and never pay to win. In-game purchases will be exclusively cosmetic. Player power cannot be purchased, period. It would be nice if it came to be. The game is set to release on PC in 2026, but there will be an alpha test beforehand. And as always, we'll keep you updated on when it happens. Watching the trailer for Spellcasters Chronicle, Nox and I had a more complex mix of emotions than we thought we would have. And we don't seem to be the only ones who feel that way. But let's start with a bit of background info. Spellcasters Chronicles is the first ever multiplayer game by Quantic Dream, the studio that also did Detroit Become Human. We thought this looked like a third-person MOBA, and then saw the devs had announced this as action strategy in large arena battles. So yes, this kinda is a MOBA, but there are also some little twists that set it apart. For example, players can fly over the arena at all times, which not only might substitute the tactical top-down view of MOBAs, but also helps with strategizing and allows for quick and focused air attacks. You still have to capture altars where creatures are summoned, so pushing lanes in other words, and collect items that will level up your character and allow you to unlock new spells and talents. The goal is destroying the enemy's lifestone, nothing new here. But still, there are some twists, which is also the part of the reveal that had us excited about this. Each hero can summon a titan that is not only huge, but also has a, hopefully, game-changing ability like freezing the surrounding area. I say hopefully because you will need to be strategic as to when you unleash the titan, as the users are limited. Something that's not really new, but that we liked, is the presentation of the spellcasters. Their overall design, but also their abilities, look awesome. This is probably also heavily supported by the third-person camera instead of top-down, but it also feels more engaged. There are 3 types of spellcasters: Duelist, Conqueror, and Enchanter, with 6 characters for now. But now onto some thoughts as to why we're still having somewhat mixed emotions. First, those will be 3v3 battles that typically will last for 25 minutes. That reduced setup seems to be the way to go in 2025, at least in MOBA terms. But we feel like this could be a bit restrictive when you keep in mind that there are just 3 classes of spellcasters. This would mean queuing will be stressful, and you will probably be disadvantaged if your friends are a horde of duelist type only players. Then, it is going to be a free-to-play title. And see, don't get us wrong here. Free-to-play can be great, but it can be problematic as well. For the monetization aspects though, it is still a bit early to complain, as we don't know much yet. On Steam, in-game purchases are listed, but that could mean everything and nothing. If you want to check it out, you can now sign up for the closed beta on their website or Steam. You're probably thinking, hero shooters are all the same. Let me prove you wrong with this next one. Hard Electric is a new hero shooter developed by Modoyo, a Swedish studio founded by Battlefield and Star Wars Battlefront veterans. Instead of the classic 2-team standoff, you play in 4 teams of 4 players. Thank you to Nox at this point for writing this script and not letting me say 4v4v4v4. Wait. But the novelty doesn't end here, as the gameplay has some electrifying twists as well. Literally, all teams have their own energy reserve. If it's depleted, the team gets eliminated. Eliminating an enemy causes them to flatline, which draws from their reserve on respawn. You can also put empty batteries into the enemy's charging station to deplete their energy and recharge yours. The energy you're competing for is also not just a resource. It fuels the flux mechanic, magnetic abilities used for mobility, terrain modification, and combos with hero skills. The matches themselves are divided into 3 phases. First off, the early game, which focuses on energy management and battery control. Once 2 teams have been eliminated, the mid-game begins, and respawns are no longer possible. And finally, the endgame, where the map begins to shrink and forces you into confrontations. This all looks and sounds refreshing, but since the game is still in early development, we don't have a final release date yet. However, there will be an alpha playtest on Steam starting October 24th, so if you're interested, be sure to check it out. Miyu Games is cooking again, and this time it looks very toxic. After their last Moons update, just released this summer, the next Toxicity DLC for Planet Crafter is already scheduled for mid-November, which is actually impressive, since Miyu Games is a tiny studio that started out as a couple's passion project. The DLC adds a new toxic planet, which can be accessed from old and new save games alike. This new planet has been abandoned and left as a toxic wasteland, with some areas so toxic you can't even step a foot inside. Not yet, at least. So instead of just juggling oxygen, pressure, and biomass, you now have to purify the planet as well. Hooray! Free labor again! The DLC also introduces tons of new machinery and equipment that bring deeper mechanics to the game. Are these trains? And as always, only the host needs to own the DLC for everyone to enjoy it in co-op. Before the official release of Arc Raiders on October 30, this weekend, everyone gets the chance to try out the game for free during the Server Slam open test until October 19. You can play on PC or consoles and get a taste of the extraction action, try out a selection of the early quests, and get familiar with some of the weapons and gear. Or, if you prefer a more medieval setting, jump into the free weekend for Mordhau, a third-person slasher with small-scale co-op horde modes, or large-scale multiplayer matches with up to 64 players, where you siege or defend castles. There is matchmaking, but be prepared for some experienced high-level opponents that have been honing their skills for the past 6 years. Also, if you love trying out game demos as much as we do, the Fall Next Fest is still live on Steam, where you can try out hundreds of new and upcoming games for free, including co-op titles like Reanimal, Cloudheim, Everwind, or Painkiller. But that's all for this week. We hope you liked this episode. If you did, you can show us by pressing the like button right here and now. It costs $0 to support a creator that way, but believe us, it means a lot to see this feedback. But now we wish you tons of fun in co-op with your favorite people, and we'll see you again in the next one.